Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
This is the Black Gold Banneret Podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, and Brian Murphy.
Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. I am Jeff Sharon, along with Brian Murphy. Our friend Eric Lopez will join us a little bit later, as he is still coming back from UCF softball's game against Mizzou, which we'll talk about him a little bit later. But Mr. Murphy, how are you? We're here to talk about football coaches, right?
Yeah, right. Football coaches. Hey, Gus got his staff done in
9 days.
9 days? Yeah, that's rapid.
9 days. I wonder if he's a fan of that song. This is the story of a girl who cried a river and drowned the whole world.
Wait.
Bad alternative rock joke.
Okay, so I know the song, but I don't understand what you're going for there.
Okay, the name of the band is 9 Days.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Okay, you didn't get that. Oh my gosh.
No,
wow.
because
Did I throw a pop culture reference past you? Holy smokes.
No, I'm sorry that I don't know the name of the band of
late 90s alternative rock one-hit wonders.
Yeah, like a one-hit wonder by definition. But when she looks so sad in photographs, but when she's
But I absolutely love her when she smiles. That's right.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Right. This podcast off to a blazing start.
We're already off the rails, and Eric's not even here. But we are going to talk about Gus Malzahn's staff. We're also going to talk about some personnel additions for UCF. Mark-Antony Richards joining from Auburn, the 4-star running back. You know how much I hate stars, so we're going to talk about how legit that is. But we are going to begin by talking about basketball. But before we do that, reminder, second segment, also we're going to have Anthony Lenahan on, who wrote his two-piece treatise, if you will, on what to expect from UCF's offense under Gus Malzahn. We broke it down by the running game and the passing game, and Ant's got some great insight in that, as he always does. When Anthony parachutes in, it's going to be some good stuff, some excellent hashtag content to bring your way. So we'll hear from him in the second segment. But first, let's talk about basketball. And all right, so now we know that 96 hours ago, UCF won at Tulane by 84-81 in a game that was the diametric opposite of the one that they played back on February 12th, where it was 53-49, also UCF win. But let's step back for a hot second, and Brian Murphy, and just take stock of where UCF basketball is right now, the men's team. They're 8-11, 6-10 in the conference. But since the back-to-back losses at Memphis, this team has won 4 of the last 6, and the 2 losses were each by 1 point.
Mm-hmm.
So, you had written earlier this month about how the team is on the verge of coming around the corner. You're starting to see things kind of gel a little bit. And given the last 2 results we've seen, the win at home against South Florida by 16 points, probably the best overall play that game that they played since the Florida State game last week. And then and now the win against Tulane. Of course, they were scheduled to play SMU on Tuesday, but that got canceled because SMU totally wiped their season. But as we head down now to these last 3 games, home for Temple, home for Tulsa, and then at ECU, what are you starting to see from this team that is giving you a sense of, okay, they're starting to figure things out together?
I think the best part is the ball movement and ball security has been better. Remember, we harped on this endlessly during that road trip with all the turnovers against Wichita State, Memphis, Tulsa. But these last few games, they've had their highest assist totals in each of the last two games. They had 16. They had 16 against Cincinnati, and then 22 against Tulane, and it was a season high in that win last weekend. And I feel like they're taking better care of the ball. They're getting themselves in better positions for good shots. And then you've seen some star turns, guys who have taken their game to another level, guys who seem to have developed within the system offensively. You can't look at C.J. Walker and say that's the same player that we saw back in December, because it's not. It's not like his offensive skill set. He's not shooting jumpers, but he's being much more aggressive in the paint. He made some post moves. He's driving into the lane. It's not like he's only a putback guy now, which is what he really was for most of the year. When he gets the ball in the post, he tries to go to work, and it's been pretty successful for him. And so I think those two things have stood out. And obviously Isaiah Adams just had a ridiculous game against Tulane. I know the consistency hasn't been there, but for a true freshman in a COVID season where this team has had a pause, just to see these flashes has been really important. Like, you can see, maybe we can't even see the ceiling yet, because the ceiling is awfully high.
Yeah, against Tulane, these numbers just bear repeating. Isaiah 10 for 11 in 32 minutes from the floor, 4 of 5 from 3-point range, 26 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, and 1 steal. And that was it, and that's his career high to this point. And what I loved watching about that game was it was almost like a quiet 26, because he was in such a flow in the offense. He wasn't. There's nothing of it. This is going to sound bad. This is going to sound like I'm saying he's not explosive, but that's not the case. We know he's explosive, but he wasn't forcing the issue, right? I mean, he was just picking the right spots, finding himself some open spots on the floor, and when he got his looks, he took advantage. He was he won the didn't he win the conference player of the week award?
He was the
freshman of the week.
AAC freshman of the week.
Freshman of the week this past week. Although he could have been player of the week with that performance, but he was struggling there for a little bit, right? But But what have you seen him do on the floor that has us seeing how much more comfortable that he is?
Well, 2 games is a small sample size. It's really hard to draw a ton out of, and it's dangerous to do so. But
no, it's not. Go ahead.
And the but is I'm going to do it anyway. So watch me.
Right.
Before these past 2 games, Isaiah was 7 for 35 from 3-point range, and these last 2, he's 7 for 10. And we talked to him a little bit about that after the game against Tulane, and he said, just obviously it's, the coaches have been harping on him to not get discouraged, not get frustrated, keep working on your shot, and he's done that. He's put in the work ethic. Johnny Dawkins will speak to this too, that he has, late nights, in the complex, in the gym, just putting up shots, and he has seemed to have changed his 3-point release a little bit, held the release a little longer to sort of remind himself to stay in his form. When he's in a good form, to stay in it. And right now he's in a good form. So he's found something, I think, from the perimeter, and he's really worked hard at it. And I think as long as he stays with, with the form and the release he's got right now, I think that could possibly continue. Not that he's going to hit 70% of his threes, but I think he won't be the negative that he was from that distance, for most of the season. But in this Tulane game was really the apotheosis of what this team has been building for the past 6-7 games. We've talked about how well they've been playing recently. They set season highs in three-pointers made, assists, field goal percentage. And this was not an easy game. They had to battle, and They closed out the game really, really strong. They the stretch there, down the stretch. where they basically just, that was a game where no one could miss at one point in the second half, where neither team could miss, and then UCF's defense ratcheted up a little bit, and really turned off the faucet for Tulane, and they just UCF kind of pulled away at the end. But it was a close game. They had a battle on the road, early tip time too, which got them off to a really slow start. So through all that, I thought they really, really showed something, and have showed something for weeks. And and you mentioned the close losses, like they lost two games to Wichita State by a combined 6 points. And Wichita State is the top ranked team in the conference right now by winning percentage. So, I'm not saying that UCF is in that stratosphere, because I don't think that, but I think their record right now is deceptive, because of how badly they played for so long out of the COVID break. 8-11 and 6-10 is not indicative of what this team is.
Lopez has joined us here. Now that he's back home from the softball game, which we'll talk about in the third segment. But let's take a look at the American men's basketball standings right now that you touched upon, Murph. Houston's at 12-3. Wichita's at 9-2. So Wichita has that edge by 18 one-thousandths of a percentage point right now. Memphis at 8-3. SMU 7-4. And UCF has 3 games remaining, and they're right now in the 7th spot in the conference standings. They're 4 games under 500. Cincinnati and Tulsa are right above them at 500. Tulsa's 7-7. Cincy's 5-5. And this is all just a total mess because nobody's playing the same number of games. But let's look at that schedule to finish out here, because it's 2 home games. With Temple on Saturday, and we talked about how Temple's at 500 at 7-7, and then you have Tulsa coming in on Tuesday, March the 2nd, and Tulsa right now is 7-7. So this is a chance for UCF not to catch those 2 in the standings, but at least to measure up against them prior to their season finale at ECU, who is dead last in the conference at 2-8. So what do you think we'll be able to learn about this team in these last 2 home games before obviously the road finale, and then they head out to Dallas for the American Championship?
Well, these are winnable games. These are not, I think there's a clear tier of the elites, if as it were, in this conference, and none of these 3 teams are in that tier. These are winnable, all 3 winnable games. UCF could very, very well finish this season on a 5-game winning streak. The Temple game is interesting just because it's another good defense. There's a ton of great defensive teams in this conference. This conference is really made about defense. But Temple is only allowing 45% shooting from below the 3-point line. So from 2-point range, 45% shooting, that's top 30 in the nation. So again, it'll be interesting to see how UCF operates against that defense. But with guys like Darius Perry and Isaiah Adams and Darren Green Jr., like, this team's been shooting the ball well from 3, so we might see a lot more of that. But I think the fact is, this team can win 5 in a row, and then they would end at 9-10 in conference.
Yeah, and be 4 points away from winning 7 in a row.
Right, and you would, momentum is fickle and it's unquantifiable. We mentioned about momentum and what does it really mean, but certainly you win 5 in a row, and you feel like you've erased all those demons that were really dogging this team once they came back from their COVID pause. You could almost believe, you could almost tell yourself and believe that this team, like I've said, is not the team we saw 6-7 weeks ago. It's a totally different team. So, and I think if they finish out this season strong, if they finish the regular slate strong, I think they'll carry that confidence into the conference tournament.
All right. So we'll keep an eye out. By the way, if they do win these last 3 regular season games, the 2 at home and ECU, UCF would finish at exactly 500 in the regular season, 11-11. They would be 9-10 in the conference if they did that. But still, to get to 500 before the conference championship, I think would be a pretty good achievement for this squad. I want to flip over and talk about the women's team. We'll talk about this, Eric Lopez, because they are in a position right now where as they as they come down the stretch, this is the big stretch that we were talking about, right? They're 12-2, 10-1 in the league, and their last 3 are Saturday at noon against Temple, and then they have the back-to-back with South Florida, which is going to be the separation games. Basically the 2-game series to determine the regular season crown in the American. So we know that UCF lost to Temple up in Philadelphia last time they played, which is all the way back on January 9th. They lost by 3 points. I don't know what it is about freaking Temple and playing up there. But UCF's last loss to Temple in Orlando was back in 2017. The Knights have won, 1, 2, 3 in a row three in a row at home against Temple since. What do we have to see here from this team as they go forward, coming off of a week where they took care of Tulsa by 2, but it was a rougher battle than it should have been, right?
Yeah, it was. And look, let's cut to the chase. Their season's on the line now in the next 2 weeks. They have to win this game against Temple. There is no ifs or buts. Now, South Florida beat Temple on Wednesday. So you look at the standings right now. UCF's one back of USF. USF, I believe, goes to Houston this weekend. While UCF hosts Temple. They must win that game. They cannot lose that game. They got to play better than what they did against Tulsa because there's no room for error. In my opinion, they have to split with South Florida to get into the NCAA tournament. If they lose both games to South Florida next week, in my opinion, they have to win the conference tournament to get into the field. And so you cannot have a slip up, especially at home against Temple. And if what you're hoping for is you beat Temple, you're hoping South Florida drops a game at Houston, and then all of a sudden now, you got a shot to win the regular season title. I think it's a big ask to ask them to beat South Florida back-to-back games. I think that is very difficult. So to me, I think UCF needs some help to win the conference. If they don't get that help, I still think they need to get a split to feel good about their chances to make the tournament, because here's the problem. If they don't beat South Florida, their best win is probably LSU, which is a bubble team right now.
Yeah.
And so the resume isn't that great. So I would feel better if they can at least split with South Florida. Otherwise, they're going to have to win the conference tournament to secure a spot. Otherwise, they could be left-handed. So this is a critical 2 weeks, and I think it's important that they cannot overlook this Temple game, because if they lose at home to Temple, now the conference championship is lost. And now you're in a spot where, man, we got to really beat South Florida, maybe both games, and make a run in the conference tournament. So this is a pressure cooker. And if you're UCF, you're hoping your goal is to set up that March 4th game to be the biggest home game in program history, which would mean that the conference championship's on the line.
Eric, if let's assume that UCF takes care of Temple, and then you say if they split, you feel good. If they split against USF, how much work, if any, do you feel like they have to do in the conference tournament?
I would feel better if they got to the final, just to be safe with the committee. It would obviously, if you beat South Florida, you split with them. That's a quality top 20, top 25 win. I don't know. I don't have the net in front of me right now. I'm sure Jeff, you could look that up. But that's their by far would be their best quality win. Right now, it's probably between LSU and Tulane as their best wins, but Tulane's not going to make the tournament unless they win the conference tournament. So to me, if you split with USF, I think you can get to the final, and if you lose, you're fine. You're good. My worry, Murph, is if you lose early in the tournament to, say, a Tulane or a Houston or whatever, however the draw comes out, that team could jump you. Okay, and maybe steal the spot from you. I'm looking at Charlie Cream's deal here. UCF is one of the last 4 teams in right now. Houston is one of the first 4 out. LSU is also one of the next 4 out. So it could come down to who's the team that knocks off South Florida first, Houston or UCF, could get that second spot from the American. That's how big this is. Or perhaps it could come down to, if it's South Florida in the final, is it Houston or UCF in the final? So there's a lot of variables here. But if you're UCF, you cannot lose to Temple. I cannot emphasize that enough.
Yeah. UCF right now, I don't have the net breakdown in front of me, but UCF right now is at 45 in the net.
South Florida's 17.
17, which actually surprises me that seems low, because look at what they have done. They only have one loss on the season, and that was by 5 points at home against number 4 Baylor. And then the next game, they beat number 6 Mississippi State by 4 in overtime at home. Now I know that it's the conference schedule that kind of is a drag on that ranking, but still, I mean, they have only one loss, and it was the number 4 team in the country. And so that shows you also how critically important this game is for UCF if they can get one of them against USF.
Huge. I mean, I'm looking at
huge.
I'm looking at it. UCF's 45 in the latest net rankings as we record this late Wednesday night. Houston's 53.
Yeah.
Tulane's 55. LSU 60. Remember that LSU win? We thought it was going to be, oh man, this is awesome. Not right. Not really. LSU's 8-11. That hurts them right now. And that Temple loss hurts them a lot.
Yeah, because Temple's 154th.
Yeah. That's killer. And unfortunately, when you're in a league like the American is in women's basketball, which is not a strong league compared to other leagues, you have slip-ups like that. It could cost you. So the good news from the American is they could be in position to get a second team in. The question is, who can knock off South Florida either in the regular season or especially in the conference tournament? Those are the scenarios that has to play out in the next 2 weeks. We'll focus on the short term, and I think it starts this weekend. Houston's hosting South Florida, and if you're UCF, you've got to split with USF, beat Temple, and maybe it's kind of risky. You would actually want Houston to beat South Florida because you would have a shot at the regular season title in that scenario. But it's going to be a wild finish.
Yeah, it is. It is going to be wild. By the way, quick little honor roll. I thought this was interesting to just mention before we take a quick break here and we get to Anthony Lenahan talking about football. But earlier today, Cincinnati defeated ECU 76-61. Did you guys see Amari Thomas of Cincinnati became just the second player in the history of the University of Cincinnati to score 50 or more in a game? She scored 51 points, made 20 shots, most points scored by an NCAA Division I women's basketball player this season. Little trivia question here for you boys. Who is the last Cincinnati basketball player, men's or women's, to score 50 points in a game?
Well, I saw the tweet, so I know the answer.
All right, so you can't answer it. Eric?
Nick Van Exel?
Nope. Oscar Robertson.
Attaboy, Oscar.
Yeah, so how about that? Amari Thomas and Oscar Robertson in the same breath. She was 20-27 from the floor, 11-13 from the line, 50 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal. Wow, congrats to Amari. That's what a day for her, and a great basketball player too for Cincinnati. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll detour over to football. Anthony Lenahan is going to join us. He wrote 2 articles this week breaking down UCF's offense under Gus Malzahn on both the run and the pass game. We'll talk about that. What's in store for Dillon Gabriel? What does he expect from DG this season? And who are the skill position players that he expects to have big breakout years in 2021? Don't go away. We'll be right back. This is the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Joining us now on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast, our guy from On Staff, Anthony Lenahan, Squints_15 on Twitter, our football whiz here on the Black and Gold Banneret staff. Anthony, what's going on, man? How are you?
Not much, hanging in there. How are you?
Good. Glad we got you on board the show here. You know, I know that we don't have you on all that often, but I know it's when we do, it's for important stuff. And you just got done with this 2-part series where we looked at what to expect from UCF's offense under Gus Malzahn. We split it up into the running game and the passing game. You can watch that or read it and watch it because it's in the film room on blackandgoldbanneret.com. But I guess I'll start. You did such a great deep breakdown of what Gus Malzahn does and intends to do with his offense, both on the ground and through the air. And I want to start by asking you this, just for the basic fan, right? How is Gus's offense going to be different than what we've seen from the last 3 years under Josh Heupel?
In easy terms, I think Heupel's offense was more north and south, where if you kind of remember, like Scott Frost per se was more east and west, kind of getting the speed guys and using the athletes in space, kind of going east and west, running outside the tackles, and that where Heupel's offense, the run up the middle is a big thing that people like to say about Heupel. Oh, another 1st and 10 run up the middle or whatever. I think if you look at Gus's offense, it's going to be a little bit more like Frost, a lot more east and west, a lot more sweeps, zone reads, getting the quarterback involved in the run game and stuff like that. A lot more motion and kind of the fun window dressing stuff that we kind of fell in love with Scott Frost from, compared to the just straight downfield one-on-one attack and power run game of Heupel's.
You said in your piece on the running game in the first half of it that the run is really Gus's bread and butter. And, like you just said, it is east-west, but there's a lot of misdirection. There's a lot of motion. He runs like 3, 4, 5 different things off of one basic look. And that has potential to really screw up a defense in the course of, not just one possession, but one game. So my read on this is you're expecting next year us to see a lot more offense in terms of in the run game than the pass game, no?
If you look at his splits, he was heavy on the early down run game in like 2014, 2015, 2016, but they had a pretty dominant Russian quarterback in Nick Marshall. I don't know if you guys all remember him, and Jeremy Johnson as well, who's another heavy dual threat guy, but more of a power runner, kind of like a Cam Newton that Malzahn, I think, was the OC for. So he kind of blended that all in. But then they kind of got towards Nick White, Jarrett Stidham, and Bo Nix now, and they've gone pretty close to 50-50 the last couple of years on just the early down run game. So I expect there to probably be a little bit more early down runs than we're used to seeing under Heupel, where you're kind of seeing a lot of deep shots. But I don't think it's going to be more of he's going to try and establish the run per se. I think it's more of he's going to feel what is working and he's going to go with it. With Gabriel and kind of the dynamic receivers, you might be more inclined to throw the ball early. Obviously, UCF's got great running backs as well, but if you look at Auburn this year, Bo Nix was obviously extremely highly recruited player and a pretty good quarterback in himself, but they didn't exactly have the skill guys on the outside other than Seth Williams to kind of just dominate one-on-one and dominate through the air against SEC defenses, where they got a freshman running back in Tinks Bigsby, who was kind of their bread and butter on offense. So leaning more towards the run game there. So I think he's going to be more of a field guy. What's working is working, and balance, I wouldn't say is exactly 50-50. He's going to probably try and he's going to get comfortable with what's working and be able to do what he wants to do when he wants to do it, rather than just go straight run past 50-50. He's going to be able to want to do what he wants to do when he can do it.
Right. Let me ask you about Dillon Gabriel, because I think that's the one question that UCF fans are going to kind of gravitate toward is what is Dillon's future going to look like under Gus's offense? I mean, this is different than the air raid. It's different than 4 verts with a bunch of option routes and just flinging the ball downfield. And you posted the graphic that Seth from Pro Football Focus put up, where you see a lot more in Malzahn's offense as compared to Josh Heupel's offense. There's a lot more attacking the middle of the field. So what is this going to mean for Dillon Gabriel going forward?
In my opinion, I think this is going to be great for Gabriel. He's not going to put up the numbers he put up under Heupel, and the entire offense isn't going to put up the numbers that they put up under Heupel in terms of volume stats. But I think fans need to realize that that's not necessarily like a bad thing. Just because you don't score 45 points a game and put up 600 yards doesn't mean the offense isn't as good. I don't think a lot of people understand that per se. And kind of if you look at what Heupel tries to preach as his MO when he went to Tennessee is, first in the country in points per game, or I don't know if it was first, but he blasts those numbers where I don't think that's the measurement you should really have for an offense. So I don't think Gabriel's going to necessarily put up the numbers that he put up, but he's going to grow so much as a quarterback, in my opinion. If you look at what Auburn did a lot of with Bo Nix just the last couple of years, and you look how much he uses his feet and kind of gets outside the pocket, gets to improvise, kind of a little bit like you see with Milton when he was under Frost, and even a little bit under Heupel, because Heupel kind of tried to incorporate both a little bit of Frost stuff in there to kind of blend in his first year, which I think is just great for a quarterback. And if you look at Pro Football Focus, I'm not sure the exact numbers, but I know when they show quarterbacks getting outside the pocket, Gabriel's always up there, but he was just so limited in doing so. Everything was just a snap, a one-step drop, and just 2.5 to 3 second release, and he's off. He didn't really necessarily get to play with his feet, get outside the pocket, and kind of extend plays. Where if you look back at his high school highlights, which obviously they're highlights of his high school, so they're all good plays, but you see a lot of him running around and kind of just having fun with it. And I think it's going to open him up to be a lot more aggressive and just kind of have a little bit more fun with the game and maybe not worry as much about making a mistake. And I also think getting under they do run Malzahn did run a little bit under center stuff, which I think is a good thing just for any quarterback. They'll use a little bit of pistol, which is great, but just getting quarterbacks into 3-step drops again. And UCF literally ran a 1-step drop on probably 99.9% of plays. So getting him in designed rollouts, designed QB boots, 3-step drops, and just letting him play, I think is going to be huge.
Yeah.
And also, there's going to be a lot more reading coverages post-snap and pre-snap and kind of going through progressions, which I don't think you really see in Heupel's offense. So overall, I think it's a huge for him in terms of growing as a quarterback, but I think it's going to be fun for us fans to kind of get to watch him play freely.
Yeah, and really let him and really see, a lot more diversity in his game too. Exactly. We know how accurate and strong-armed he is as a passer, but I think you're right. If that's how you see it playing out, this could make for a really interesting season for him. Let me ask you about Gus's offense in terms of pace, because that's one thing that has kind of been Josh Heupel's calling card. And it's funny, I'm actually reading Gus Malzahn's book right now that he wrote when he was a high school coach on the hurry up, no huddle offense. And, it reads very much like the playbook for Josh Heupel in terms of running a lot of plays, running plays quickly, getting, lengthening the game. He does talk about that and keeping the pace up. But he didn't quite do that as much at Auburn. A couple of times we'd see them go into tempo, but it was by design. They weren't running nearly with the pace that UCF did under Josh Heupel. Do you expect to see things slow down for UCF on offense, or do you think that they'll still run at a quick pace?
I think they'll slow down a bit. I think it's almost impossible to do anything as fast as Heupel did, unless you're running, I don't want to say basic of an offense, but it wasn't as in-depth as I think Malzahn's offense is. And everything that UCF didn't necessarily try and counter pre-snap defensive looks, where I think Malzahn's kind of a little bit more of a chess match, adjust to what they're doing, let them adjust to us, and kind of going calls based off of what the defense looks preset. And I think just from a defensive standpoint, from a UCF side, I think he's going to try and go a little bit slower to kind of benefit the defense. I know the defensive guys, I don't think exactly were happy with how fast UCF played. And I don't think it's a bad thing at all. It's going to hurt their numbers, and fans obviously love how fast UCF played under Heupel, but they're still going to run no huddle. They're still going to run a spread. It's still going to be, they're still going to score points. It's just not going to be snapping the ball with 30 seconds left on the play clock.
Yeah. Let me ask you about the skill personnel that UCF has, because like you said, you had hinted to the fact that, UCF skilled players right now are as good or maybe even better than Gus has had at Auburn over the past few years, just based on their sheer athletic ability, speed, strength, and all that kind of stuff. Which players do you think are bound to have really big breakout seasons this year in this new offense that maybe we hadn't quite seen as much of them in the past?
Yeah, it's interesting because UCF loses so many guys this year.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have loved to seen Otis and Marlon in this offense because I think of how well those two did under Frost and kind of how they were utilized so to fit their skill set and used so differently compared to just kind of being a one kind of with under Heupel, Marlon just stayed in the slot the entire time and Otis kind of just as a running back where you saw Marlon lining up as a running back under Frost. So it's going to be interesting because we don't know that much about these guys that are coming back. Obviously, Jalen Robinson, you expect to have a huge year. If you look at what Seth Williams did at Auburn, I kind of look at him to kind of be that role for UCF. Just that he's going to be the number one receiver. But I think how Malzahn's going to utilize his speed guys like O'Keefe, he's going to probably run 15 to 20 jet motions in a game, in my opinion. Like whether he gets the ball on all of them, it's going to be completely different. But to me, the one person that this really benefits is Gabriel. Like he's going to grow so much, and it's hard to look at from a different perspective because we don't know that much about UCF's other skill guys because they quite frankly just haven't gotten a lot of playing time other than O'Keefe and Robinson. So it's going to be interesting. I think it's a benefit for every single one of them, if I want to be honest. But they're not necessarily going to put up the stats that they would have under Heupel. But I think in terms of growing as a football player, I think it does benefit.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see too. Also, like some of the new guys are coming in, like the new wide receiver from Hawaii, Titus Atimalala, Mark-Antony Richards coming in from Auburn. All these guys are kind of wild cards now, aren't they?
They are, and I mean they all have roles. Like there's all open spots there. Bentavious Thompson obviously comes back. He's going to probably be running back number one, but we don't know. I mean, they used a bunch of different running backs. They ran 2 running back looks at Auburn. So I think all these guys they're wild cards, but I think they all have a spot that is open for them to get playing time if they earn it and can fill in roles right away.
Yeah. What about one of the things I think back to it was the growing pains that UCF had under Scott Frost in his first year in 2016. You could see that the offense was out of sync at times because of, they were still learning the whole scheme. There were fewer moments like that in 2018 when they transitioned over from Frost to Heupel, but you could see on occasion some things, were a little wonky at times. Do you feel that there could be some growing pains this year for UCF as they go through what looks to be a rather challenging schedule, where through this year we might not see the best of what Gus Malzahn's offense brings to the table? Like, is there a possibility that we might really see them hit the gas in 2022 once they've had a year under their belt?
Yeah, I think you could say that. I think any new offense you're going to come in and have to learn, I think there's always going to be growing pains no matter what. If you look back at the NFL this year and even college with the COVID kind of shortened preseason, all the teams with new coaches and new offensive schemes kind of struggled early. So it's going to have an impact no matter what at any level, even in the NFL. You kind of saw it. So I think it's going to have a little bit of an impact. But for me, I think for UCF, I'd always be one to say to hire a up and coming coordinator kind of to because of the kind of the ceiling for coaches at UCF. If you look at just in recent, Frost came and left, Heupel came and left. It's kind of the ceiling. It's kind of what all UCF fans and the program knows that's going to happen unless somebody comes here and like truly doesn't want to leave, which is always a possibility. And you see it more and more now with Billy Napier at Louisiana Lafayette, Chadwell at Coastal. They kind of stuck there. Fickle at Cincinnati. They could have all left and gone to smaller Power 5 schools, but they wanted to stay. So there's always a chance that that happens. But with the late leave from Heupel and kind of everything that played out, to get in a coach with as much experience as Malzahn and kind of as much success as he had, I think it was a kind of a home run hire. It's easy to say that because of his resume, but I think when you look at everything that you have to, the short turnaround towards spring ball's got to start in a month, maybe. So
yeah, to
learn the offense that quick and that much of a turnaround, I think having Gus at the helm is going to be great. So we might see less of an effect of the new offense compared to what we would have saw if they had a first-time head coach, per se.
Last question for you. We've talked about the offense the whole time, but I want you to kind of put your head into the defense's helmet right now, because like you had hinted at before, you know, it felt like the defense at times felt like they felt like sometimes they got hung out to dry by the offense on occasion over the last few years under Heupel. How different is the defense's approach now under Gus's offense?
I think it'll help them out a lot. I don't really know schematically, however you say it, kind of what it's going to look like. The new D coordinator is obviously, it's his first time being a D coordinator, but the players so far, they seem to love him, which I think is building a culture, especially on the defensive end, is going to be huge. And just kind of having those guys playing together, because they obviously have talent at those guys. And I know like Kalia Davis comes back this year, who I think is going to be a really good player. And they have a bunch of talent. Losing Richie Grant and a couple of safeties is going to hurt, obviously, but I don't think they were a product. The defensive results was a product of the talent they had on the field last year. Is more kind of just not outside reasons, but the offense and not getting much rest and kind of new guys playing every single week. It seemed like they had new defensive starters. So I think it's going to help them tremendously, just kind of getting kind of a new start, a new fit, a new scheme, and a lot more rest. So I think the defense is going to surprise some people this year.
All right. Anthony Lenahan, Squints_15 on Twitter. We appreciate your breakdowns as always, man. Great job on that. And you can check it out on Black and Gold Banneret. What to expect from UCF's offense under Gus Malzahn underneath part 1, the running game, and part 2, the passing game. Anthony Lenahan breaking everything down for us, as he does when we have questions about X's and O's and advanced statistics. You're the man we rely on. Anthony, thank you so much for all the hard work. What a great job you did on both of those pieces. And stay in touch, and we'll be hearing again from you soon.
I appreciate you having me.
Thanks again to Anthony for joining us and giving us his insight. Squints_15 on Twitter. All right, so we touched upon it a little bit, but now Eric and Brian are back with me here. Gus Malzahn has now completed his coaching staff at UCF. It took him all of 9 days to do it. Just a quick rundown of who is running the show. On offense, he's got co-offensive coordinators, G.J. Kinney and Tim Harris Jr. G.J. Kinney also coaches the quarterbacks. Tim Harris Jr. coaches the running backs. The O-line coach is Herb Hand. Daryl Wyatt returns to UCF. He ends up being the only holdover from the Josh Heupel staff to stay at UCF, coaching the wide receivers. Brian Blackman coaches the tight ends, and he's also the special teams coordinator. On the defensive side of the ball, Travis Williams is listed as the defensive coordinator with co-defensive coordinator David Gibbs. Gibbs also coaches the DBs. Addison Williams coaches the cornerbacks. And then he's got 2 other defensive assistants that have not actually been assigned positions yet, Kenny Martin and Kenny Ingram. who one of them I am under the assumption will coach the defensive line, and the other one will coach the linebackers. But we'll have to, I don't know, we'll have to wait and see what their actual position assignments are. All right, so Murph, I'll start with you. Anthony touched upon this in the interview, where the Heupel leaving so late in the cycle meant that, at least in his opinion, UCF really did have to move quickly with a coach who had a lot of experience and could set up a staff very quickly. And that's exactly what Gus Malzahn did. So when you look at how the staff breaks down, how do you view what Gus is trying to do here?
Well, Gus is bringing in a lot of people he knows, right? I mean, this is not like he's not going to go out and do a ton of interviews with fresh eyes. He's going in here with a lot of guys whom he has worked with in the past and who's either he's bringing from Auburn or reconnecting with from a previous time. I think about when the day Gus was hired and we had our night shift that night, and we asked near the end of the show, I think you asked all of us on the call, what would be the most the most interesting or intriguing, what do you want to see most out of this coaching staff? What are you looking forward to most as far as what kind of hire he makes? And I said it'd be quarterbacks coach, because at that time there was still this rumble about, like, is Dillon Gabriel, is he all good with Gus? Is he ready? Like, obviously he is, guys. Like, that was such a non-story. He's fine. And I just find it interesting that they bring in G.J. Kinney, a quarterback that UCF fans should know, because he played right at SMU. He played at SMU, correct?
Tulsa.
At Tulsa, CUSA. And then I just think it's interesting they bring in G.J. Kinney, who coached at the University of Hawaii last year. And I wonder how much at all, if at all, that connection and bring him in to coach a Hawaiian quarterback matters on how he got this job.
Eric, what did you think?
Well, Kenny, if I remember, was the quarterback when Gus was there at Tulsa. So
I think he was a backup there at the time, but yes, he was there.
I like him. I brought him up when I did my Where is Mackenzie Milton possibly going? I mentioned him when I thought about Hawaii as a possibility for Mackenzie and how he was running the Hawaii offense. And I think, look, Gus obviously is going with people he knows and connected. I think that's a good fit for Dillon and the quarterbacks. We'll see. The thing that's impressive to me is he basically filled out this staff in what, a week, 8-9 days? Like, meanwhile,
you missed the joke at the top of the show that fell flat, Eric. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. Which one is that? Is that the Josh Heupel comparison or no?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Got 9 days. This is the story of a girl who cried a river and drowned the whole world.
It's just as bad the second time.
Yeah,
I'm glad I missed it. I'm glad I was broadcasting while that happened. No, what blows me away, it took Josh Heupel 20 days to find a defensive coordinator in Tennessee in comparison. Look, I think this staff is impressive across the top to bottom. The Wyatt story is kind of wild, isn't it? Like, we heard he would be out, and now he's back in. Like, what do you make of that one? That's kind of I have to believe, though, that the Whiteouts are happy about that.
I would imagine so, especially because there's a lot of young guys who, have only, they were basically recruited by Darryl, and so yeah, I'm sure they're glad to see him stick around. I think we will talk to Darryl at some point this year, either during spring ball or the fall season. Like, they don't, there's certain coaches they put on the Zoom, there's certain coaches they don't put on the Zoom, and Darryl seems to be one in the former camp. So I would love to know, and I'm sure people will ask him, like, what was this whole, like, 2 month period or month period like? Because it seemed like you were out and replaced, and then you were brought back. How did all that go down? I'd love to know. And I'll just say as a quick conclusion that I think Herb Hand being brought in as the offensive line coach with all the accolades he's racked up in his long career, I'm interested to see how that works with that offensive line that we know is, last year the trying to get that group to gel was so important.
Yeah, I think it's going to be real. It's especially as they move from this, air raid scheme over to like Anthony was talking about, a scheme that's a lot more predicated on east-west running, and getting to the edge, much more of a Frost type offense than it was a Heupel type offense. I'll tell you the one hire that I'm really that I was really intrigued by. It actually wasn't a coach. It was the director of operations, S.J. Tui. If that name sounds familiar, if those of you who remember the movie The Blind Side, he's the younger adopted brother of Michael Orr, the Ole Miss All-American. So he was portrayed in a movie, and now he's UCF's director of operations. So welcome to UCF, S.J. Tui. Welcome on board. So this will be fun. This will be fun. Now we look forward to spring football whenever that happens. What's that going to look like? How's the transition going to go for all the players to the new offense and to the new defense? So
defense, people, we're actually talking defense finally. After the last regime basically used it as a rumor, now they're going to be held accountable. It's a crazy concept, and we're going to have a running game. A power run.
Well, yeah. About that, real quick before we go, how about Auburn transfer Mark-Antony Richards announcing he's going to come to UCF? Highly recruited, obviously went to Auburn. He's from Wellington, Florida, which is down in Palm Beach County. But he comes back home, and I would imagine, Brian, this kid's going to get a bunch of opportunities this year, isn't he?
Well, there is room for expansion, right? And it's not like anybody has a job locked down here with Ventavious Thompson, obviously Demarius Good, Johnny Richardson, Anthony Williams, the freshman, locally,
RJ Harvey.
And now you've got RJ Harvey, and now Mark-Antony Richards. It's interesting to me that this UCF backfield has a lot of size in it now. I mean, Mark-Antony really fits in with Ventavious. And Harvey's big too, and Anthony Williams is a big guy, and now Mark-Antony's 6'1", 210. I mean, this is a little different than what we've seen in the past 4 or 5 years with this offense. So it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. People are very excited because he's a 4-star recruit and he's a top 100. When he came out of high school, he was a top 100 recruit by Rivals and by 24/7. Top 15 player in the state of Florida, I believe, and that's great. I know it makes the fan base very happy that Gus is out here bringing in 4-star guys. He's offering a lot of 4-star guys for 22 and 23. It's awesome. It's nice to see that they're casting a wide net. Again, like I ran about on the night shift. It doesn't mean that it works and that it's going to play out. But
don't get me started on star systems.
I know that the fan base enjoys it because at least it shows that you're trying to cast your net to a certain caliber of player. I mean, if enough people think highly of this player to put 4 stars on him and over 3, then I guess the odds are, there's more likely odds the guy will be, more, better, or you can tell I'm stumbling over my words and I'm trying to justify something I don't believe in.
I just say I don't. That's fine too.
I'm at least trying to understand the fans who are very excited that Gus is doing this with recruits that usually UCF doesn't normally touch.
Right. No, it's
a great feeling though. It feels good.
Look at Lopez. Look at Lopez. He's so excited about this.
I'm so excited. We got a coaching staff. We're going to recruit the state. We're going to recruit the South. I mean, my hair's on fire right now. My hair's on fire.
To their credit, they have been recruiting Florida very hard, and that's another thing that a lot of the common threads with Gus's coaches, a lot of ties to Florida, in the state of Florida, and so I don't think he was lying when he said they were going to recruit Florida like their hair's on fire, because the early indications are they're doing that.
He's done an incredible job. I mean, I don't remember this fan base being as united as we are right now. I don't even remember that other guy that people were clamoring for. What's his name again? The clown, the kid. What's his stiff name in Oxford? Whatever. Anyway, so I've been really blown away.
Wow.
By the united of this fan base. It's really exciting. I think Gus has done a tremendous job of selling. Look, obviously they got to produce on the field. I get all that, but
yes,
but I will say this. I think the one thing that he is doing, and I think will do, that Josh never did was connect with the fan base. And I think that is important in college athletics. And I think, look, and that's nothing against Josh. I don't want to pile on personality. You have to be who you are.
No, of course not.
But let's be honest. Josh was paint dry. And in college athletics, that's a problem. Like it's one thing if you win all the time, that's great. But when you start dropping a game or two, you better relate to the fan base. And I think that's what got Josh in trouble with the fan base and lost probably a lot of support. I think Gus has that ability to talk to the fan base. So if something does go wrong, he's going to say, hey, this is what went wrong, and this is how we're going to address it. And I think fans want that. That's all they want, is to feel a part of it and connecting with the coach, because then they'll get behind him. And I think that's what's happening here with the staff.
Maybe, but I don't want us to believe that we're going to get the Gus we saw at his opening presser every time after or before a game. Like usually Gus, listening to a lot of national columnists who were really shocked at his opening presser about how relatable and how funny and how quotable he was. Like they're like, that's not usually Gus. So when things go bad, even when things go good, there could be a sense still that Gus is going to be kind of dry. So I don't really care about the personality outwardly.
Well, he could be dry, but his dry might be compared to Josh, might be soaking wet. I mean, so we'll take it. Give me something in there.
I'm looking forward to seeing the on-field results. That's what I want to see. It's
about player development, guys. It's
right.
About player development.
Player development's the name of the game.
Yeah,
so,
and I think that's exciting. And I think, look, I mean, you guys addressed the schedule last week. It's a tough, tricky schedule. Boise, Louisville the first month. I don't like how the setup with the Cincinnati, Memphis, but I actually like the fact that UCF probably will be a little under the radar from that standpoint if people want to pick SMU, and I think that's a good thing for this team. And that being said, don't be fooled. I mean, I guarantee you that Boise game will be prime time. I think UCF's going to be the highly profiled team in the league because of Gus's. People are interested to see how Gus does at UCF.
Wait. You just said they'd be under the radar.
Well, I think as far as the fan base picking them, I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know the media, you people like you, Brian, that vote for the American football poll will pick darling Cincinnati and darling SMU, and that's fine. That'll be great. Go ahead, pick them out. Are you gonna eat lobster in Fort Worth, or how's that gonna work? What are we doing?
Eat lobster in Fort Worth. I don't know. We'll see when we get there.
Oh, God.
If we get there, right?
All right.
Maybe some ribs, maybe some pulled pork. Against Texas.
There you go. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to pull this train back onto the tracks just in time for us to get to a break where we will talk with Eric Lopez about softball, who played an all-top 25 matchup against Mizzou tonight. Result wasn't what the Knights wanted, but still lots to talk about with that. History over this past weekend with UCF softball as well, plus baseball, soccer, and plenty of other things to talk about here.
Murph, the term hot stove, I don't think has never been used like we're going to use it on this segment with you, my friend.
All right. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon, Eric Lopez, Brian Murphy with you here. Follow us on Twitter at UCF_Banneret, Facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret, and of course, blackandgoldbanneret.com, where every Monday you can read our nightcap, where we go over the weekend in UCF sports and all the news and notes from all UCF sports all around. And we're going to lead this segment with softball, Eric Lopez, because you just got back from UCF's game against Mizzou. Not the result the Knights wanted, but still a tight game against the Mizzou team that was also ranked in the top 25, right?
Yes, battle of top 25 matchups. Now, I know I got messages about why was Missouri ranked 19th, UCF not in the graphics. The people were tuning in. That's an ESPN poll, and I guess I've been told that we have to use the ESPN poll and whatever. I ignored it. So, I'm sorry, guys, all right? I tried. But, yes, this is two top 25 teams, and I thought it was a high-level game. It really was. I thought it was a well-played game. Missouri's really good. These two teams are in the top 15 in just about every single offensive category, and I think you saw that early in the game. Missouri hit 3 homers. off Bree Vasquez, or a couple of them off Vasquez, the other one off Mancha in relief. And they're dynamic 1-9. But I thought UCF responded quickly in the third. They didn't flinch. It wasn't like, oh no, we're down 5-0 and we're done, like maybe in years past. I think UCF's confident with their offense. They can make up any deficit. And you saw that in the third inning. Georgia Blair just continues to amaze, man.
What a hitter, man. She's something.
3-run homer. I think she's the best power hitter since Stephanie Best. And I think she's the closest thing this program has had to Stephanie Best. And many regrets of the year being cut short is we don't know how many home runs she would have hit last season, but she's already reached her number from last year. She hit 6 last year. She's already at 6 this year. So who knows where that's going to go, but it's not just her. Shannon Doherty's coming around. So it was 2 high-level teams. Give Missouri credit. They scratched out the run in the 4th inning on the triple by Laird. She scores on the ground ball. And it was a high-level game. UCF had some chances at the end, but Missouri pulled the stop. So I thought it was a well-played game, a high-level game. I wouldn't be fazed by it if I'm a UCF fan. I thought it was the top matchup of the night in the country in college softball, and I think it lived up to that. And I think these are 2 teams that are going to be heard from this year and will be around the top 25 polls throughout the year and be a threat in postseason.
Not to be outdone was the news from over the weekend and the 3-game sweep of New Mexico State, Eric Lopez, where Aaliyah White made history on Sunday, becoming UCF's all-time leader in wins, picking up her 81st career victory, passing Shelby Turnier for most wins by a UCF pitcher over that weekend. What, aside from obviously, can't really say much about what UCF did against New Mexico State. Everything was clicking, offense, defense, and pitching, but what that moment meant for Aaliyah and for Coach Bear and for UCF softball to get it done in front of the home fans and firmly etch her name in the UCF record books with one of the key marks of any program.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue the most highest profile record in UCF, not just softball, but one of the higher profile records in UCF athletics in general. I think Justin Pope holds the baseball record. He's like at 32, for example. Softball and pitcher. That's the UCF softball pitcher is a very high profile position, and in the athletic department, alongside a goalkeeper in UCF's women's soccer and men's soccer, if you want to count them, among other positions. And for her to kind of surpass some of the greats like Shelby Turnier and Mackenzie Audis and Allison Kime in the record books is a big achievement. It was a kind of a surprise because I wasn't expecting her to get the ball on Sunday. I thought they might go with Vasquez on Sunday, but Coach Bear said after the game on Sunday, she just kind of had a feeling with New Mexico State, the way they're capable of hitting the ball. She just wanted Aaliyah to start that game and see where it goes, and where it went, it was history, and it was a great moment. Happy for her. For those that don't know her story, she wears number 27. She was a premature birth. She was born way too early. She was born as a 1 pound, and you could probably explain this better, Jeff, as a father, what this all means. I mean, she was they gave her oxygen she was on oxygen for 27 days. There was no guarantees that she would make it, and she did that, and she's overcame that, and she's overcome a lot of things in far as getting to where she is now at softball. So I'm happy for her as a person, and what she's overcome, and just a great kid and a great family that they're so positive and so supportive, and really great kid. So I was super happy for her, and I know that Shelby is as well. Shelby told her last year, go ahead and break the record. Mackenzie's told her, and that's part of that fraternity in the UCF softball there. They all kind of support each other. So it was an awesome moment to be a part of. I was glad that it worked out, and I got to call it, and I was glad that it was able to do it at home, and I was glad that her parents were there to see it because there was no guarantee of that either. So it was a pretty special day that I won't forget anytime soon. That's
awesome. That's really awesome. All right, so let's look ahead at what they have coming up this week. They got a doubleheader Friday against McNeese State, followed by the third game of the series on Saturday, and then they play UNF at home next Wednesday. But tell us about McNeese, because it's easy to just dismiss them as a non-power school, but they come in actually pretty strong, don't they?
Yeah, they're one of the favorites in the Southland. They always win the Southland. James Landreneau is their head coach. Their record is misleading. They have played a brutal schedule. They play LSU on the road. They play Louisiana Lafayette on the road. They play a bunch of teams on the road. but they're a team that's always in the mix in the NCAA tournament. They're that team that you see as a 3 seed. They're usually in LSU or Lafayette or in Texas, and you just don't want to see them there. They can hit. They have their greatest alum is Erica Piscatelli, who's going to be on the Italian national team this Olympic year. So she just graduated, but she's like their greatest player of all time. But they got some talent there, and it's going to be a challenge for UCF. They got to get past this now Missouri game, which was very much hyped now, and have a quick turnaround with a doubleheader on Friday against McNeese, who can hit. And that's the thing that's been interesting about Coach Ball Malone's schedule is she scheduled all these light teams that can hit. New Mexico State was a top 50 offense. Missouri's a top 10 offense right now. McNeese can hit. So it'll be a challenge for this pitching staff. It'll be interesting to see how Brianna Vasquez bounces back after the struggles against Missouri. See G. Mancha continue there. Her role is kind of a starter and a reliever. And then Ali obviously is the ace. And we'll see if some of the young pitchers get some time there. But McNeese is a tough team. So it'll be interesting to see how this team bounces back from that Missouri game against a very scrappy, tough McNeese team.
All right, so doubleheader Friday 4 and 6, and then the third game Saturday at 1 at the complex, followed by UNF on Wednesday at 6. So that's what's coming up for UCF softball as they continue this homestand. They've got 7 more home games before they go out on the road to play at FAU mid-March. All right, let's flip to the other diamond, baseball. Rough opening weekend for UCF baseball. As they lose 2 out of 3 to FAU. They split the games down in Boca, lost the opener on Friday at home. A lot of runs scored in this series. And then Tuesday,
you don't say.
Yeah.
Run scores, he says.
And then Tuesday fell to Stetson at home by a score of 7-0. So rough start for UCF baseball, who, by the way, is playing without Greg Lovelady because he announced that he had tested positive for COVID-19. So he is isolating. He can't coach yet. But this is not, Brian Murphy, the start that they wanted to have before they had.
We got to do this justice here because my inbox has been blown up the last couple days. Okay, so I want to just use quotes here from Murph because for whatever reason, people are asking me, hey, what is the issue? And I'm like, I'm not the baseball guy, guys. I'm the softball guy. And they're like, well, who's the baseball guy? Oh, it's Brian. And some of them are like, get some. So here's some of the questions.
Hey, aren't you Brian?
Right. Well, my favorite was I was like in an Uber and somebody's like, they didn't know who I was. They're like, do you guys have a softball program? But then they asked me, what's wrong with the baseball team? I'm like, do you not know what? So my ego took a hit on that.
Did you really try to pull the "Do you know who I am" card out of Uber's?
Yeah, I'm at a softball complex. Why do you think I'm there? Like, you don't. Anyway.
Don't you know what softball was?
Apparently not to that one. But Murph, I did get some questions from people that were in the stands. I've got people that were watching yesterday, this week. So here's some of the questions that I've gotten, which it's a little. Some of it's graphic, but we'll clean it up.
It's graphic.
Yeah, I know this one's a shocker to you. Unger to Unger, what the blank is going on with this baseball team? I don't get it. We have another one here. Sigego, what the blank is going on? Can you tell Brian what is going on with this baseball team? Another one says, is Randy Shannon now running the pitching staff at UCF baseball? Are we going to give up touchdowns every week? I mean, Mark, I could go on and on. Please, Brian, people are flipping out. Is it too early to panic or is there cause for concern?
No, it's too early to panic, guys. And everybody hates that answer, right? Everybody hates that answer because you want to panic. You want to sit it back after 4 games. We're getting close to 10% of the schedule and go, oh, my God, what's wrong? But if you had a bad weekend, and they had a bad weekend, guys, like, boy, howdy, it was bad. It started off bad. It was bad defense. That cascaded into bad pitching. Then they go down to Boca at FAU. And the first game on Saturday, unspeakable. I mean, if anybody's watched MLB Network this week, you've seen Caleb Pendleton. If you watch ESPN, you know who Caleb Pendleton is.
Yeah.
Because it keeps showing the highlights.
He did a Stephanie Best.
Yes, correct. Yes, that's true. Otherwise known as a Fernando Tatis. But the FAU catcher did a Fernando Tatis grand slam in the same inning in his first 2 collegiate at-bats.
It's all downhill from here.
It is all downhill from there. So that was awful. By the way, that game was 20-15 on Saturday. I mean, talk about unwatchable. UCF salvages a game on Sunday thanks to one of the ugliest innings of all time, in which they get 6 runs on 1 hit. It was a home run, but then after that, the next 8 guys reached base and none of them got a hit. And then, yes, it didn't go well against Stetson. I thought UCF's approach was rushed. They were facing a pitcher in Stetson who had one career start of more than 5 innings, and he went 6 or 5 2/3. And it seemed like they were trying so hard. They wanted to make contact and do good things. They really weren't taking pitches. And it wasn't a great start by Zach Hunsaker. That all said, it's 4 games. I understand it doesn't look good, but I'm not going to all of a sudden castigate these pitchers who I believe, and certainly Greg Lovelady believes, are really good. I think Colton Gordon is really good. Hunter Patterson's really good. After a couple of one bad start, I'm not going to bail on them and say, well, this is lost. We've seen that their offense can do some things.
Scored 15 runs back-to-back games. They ended up with a split.
I mean, really, the FAU series kind of, losing 2 out of 3 to FAU overshadows it. But they scored 36 runs. Unfortunately, they gave up 38. The problem, it's not a problem. The issue now is that the panic is going to probably heighten after this weekend. Oh, no. Because
panic on the part of the fan base, you mean?
Yes, not on my part, because again, it's so early. Like, it's just we're not doing this, guys. I'm talking to the fan base.
It's not like we're going to play a team tough better than FAU, are we, Murr?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's only number 1 Ole Miss.
Yes. So, look, I just want to say before I get into Ole Miss, we're not going to do this after 4 games. We're not going to freak out after 4 games and 1-3.
I get the panic button out, Jeff. I mean, Jeffrey has it handy. Jeff has it handy.
No. It's Brian is giving me the Jerry Maguire speech as he walks out of the office. I'm not going to do what you all think I'm going to do.
I'll tell you what, this may not be a good weekend for UCF because they're going to go to Oxford and face number 1 Ole Miss, a team that has already got 3 wins over top 10 teams in their first 4 games this season. They were down in Texas last weekend. And the highlight, they beat TCU, Texas Tech, and Texas. Texas Tech is number 3 in the country. Then they absolutely crushed Arkansas State 12-1 on Wednesday night. So they're sitting pretty, waiting for the Knights. And UCF is going to have just their hands full. The guys to watch in this series, first of all, the shortstop Jacob Gonzalez for Ole Miss is a total stud. As a true freshman shortstop, he's amazing. But as far as MLB draft and who could we see, in the show quickly, Gunnar Hoglund is probably a first-round pick right now. Maybe the 3rd or 4th best college pitcher in the nation. You've got the Vanderbilt kids, Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter. Then you can make some arguments about who's in front of him. But Gunnar Hoglund, the Friday night starter for Ole Miss, is going to be a very high draft pick this coming season. He was very good at the start of the season. He's very good in his first outing of the year. Derek Diamond is a sophomore who pitched well on Sunday. There's a lot of good arms being thrown at UCF this weekend. A lot of good bats. Obviously, it's number 1 in the nation. But we talked to Greg Lovelady about this, guys, and even in his answer, he said that even if we don't go out there and win those games, it is an opportunity to use it as a barometer for what they need to do to get better, to get to beat those type of teams later on. Because if this team gets to where they want to get to, being in the upper echelon of the AAC, making a regional, advancing out of a regional, for the first time in a long time, you need to beat these type of teams, or at least this kind of class of team. So maybe they lose 2 out of 3 or whatever. Maybe they get swept. I don't know. But you want to see that you can compete against these teams, because if they get their doors blown off this weekend, then we'll talk about that's weird. 2 weekends in a row where the pitching doesn't show up and they get shut up by these high level pitchers. Now we've got issues. I would say now we got issues. But if they're competitive losses, I would be fine with that.
Okay.
But there will be losses.
So what you're saying is don't panic. Even if it looks bad, it's not as bad as you think. let's just everybody calm down, right?
They would need to lose like 12-1 on Friday and then like follow that up with like 13-0 on Saturday. If that happens and like there's like a 0.001% chance that it will, then we'll talk about like, wow, this isn't good, because like, yeah, it's losses, but you're also now being embarrassed in back-to-back weekends. And even though Ole Miss is great, I honestly don't think they're the best team in college baseball. And you know, they're very, very good, but they're not the best team.
Yeah.
If you're being embarrassed like that on any weekend, that signals alarm, especially when it's your second weekend. You've had a weekend to really kind of fix. I've had a week to really fix what was ailing, if anything, Hunter Patterson. I mean, I would be shocked if Hunter Patterson goes up there and has another total dud like he did in Boca. He's way too talented for that.
Lovelady's going to be back, right?
Yeah, so we talked to intern or acting head coach Ted Tom after the game against Stetson on Tuesday. He did say the plan is to fly up to Memphis, and then they will bus over to Oxford. Lovelady will be in the dugout. For the plan, at least, is for Lovelady to be in the dugout for Friday's series opener against Ole Miss. So it does sound like, Greg, we'll be back for the entire series.
Did we get any indication of, like, how sick was he or any of that kind of thing?
No, he's totally physically fine. Physically, it seemed like he was fine. We did ask Ted Tom that a couple times. Didn't seem like he had any major symptoms. I'm sure we'll ask Lovelady more about his directly about his experience with the virus when we get a chance to talk to him. But according to Ted Tom, everything seems fine physically. He did say, I think, on Friday night, the first game of the season against FAU, they lost. He said Greg isn't feeling as well now as he would have liked to have been at the start of the game. Basically saying, like, he's fine, but now he feels like he's got like an upset stomach because they just lost their opening game to FAU. So
all right.
You can joke about your head coach being on the COVID list and how he feels, when you can joke about that, it's a good indication that he's okay.
Well, either way, we're glad that Greg seems at least okay enough. Yeah. Obviously, if he's okay enough to rejoin the team, we're glad that he and his family are doing well. So, and it'll be good to see him back in the dugout for the first time this year. Go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
Well, I do have a question. Somebody has asked me this question, so that's why I'm going to ask you this.
Yes.
The combination, you lose your coach in Lovelady, and I know that, hey, look, players decide the games, but we got to remember, these are college kids, 18 to 22. These are not big leaguers that can, hey, if the manager's not there, so be it. Do you think that, threw off some of the players? And then some people have brought up there was some bad weather. Like, do you think there's just some of those things? It's just everything that could go wrong went wrong, and it kind of was a snowball. How much do you play into that kind of thought process that, maybe that kind of threw everybody off a little bit? Is just one of those things.
I don't buy into that. The bad weather, the Friday night game, got delayed. It got off to a late start, and then there was some rain off and on during the game, but it wasn't like a deluge. It was like a sprinkle. I'm not sure what happened, by the way. Quick aside, baseball game was playing for like an hour while softball was still in rain delay.
Oh, my God, dude, that was so
That was weird. I was keeping track of it on Twitter, and I was telling everybody, "Hey, the baseball game's going on." Meanwhile, I was following you, Eric, and you were like, because ESPN Plus was in rain delay mode, and
right.
and I was like, "Well, what's going on here? Why aren't we playing softball too?"
Well, so this is what happened from what I can gather, because I was obviously in the booth for this. We started the game. We were fine. It was soft rain, but it was fine, misty rain, no big deal. We played on that. And I think we played up until right around when baseball was about to start. And then this heavy pour came in, and they kind of shut it down. Now, if anybody's been to the complex, part of the problem, and now I don't know if anybody's aware, we're still in a pandemic, right, Murph? We're still in a pandemic?
This is correct.
Yep, okay. Still happening.
Well, that's kind of a problem, because our softball complex, for those that don't know, doesn't have a visiting locker room. So the visiting team doesn't really have anywhere to go. They used to be, in the pre-pandemic days, they would just hang out in the batting cage. Well, you can't do that right now. So they had to leave. They had to go in their buses and leave, because and I guess they were looking at and the weather radar. I'll defer to you on this, Jeff. They were looking at these cells, and they just decided, let's just wait till this cell kind of clears, and then we'll just be clear for the rest of the night. So they decided to wait it out while baseball said, yeah, we're just going to play.
Well, okay, this is interesting. Now, did they just go on the bus and go back to the hotel?
I believe yes.
Or wow, I'm surprised that they wouldn't just, if they're all together as a team, just go back into the bus and just hang out there.
They may have done that briefly, but from what I understand, they left the premise. So they
Why can't you just sit in the dugout? I mean, I know it's boring,
Yeah.
and still stay in the dugout.
I don't know. I'm just a guy with a microphone.
Probably, I would guess that, it's not like in the majors where, if something, if there's like a lightning strike, you can run into the clubhouse real quick, right? I mean,
well, the other problem, actually, I do have an answer for that. Problem was when the rain was coming down, there was also wind, and it was swirling to the point where you're getting smoked. You're getting hit if you're in the dugout. Like both teams were not in the dugout. UCF went to the batting cage, and New Mexico State went back. Here's the moral of the story. We need a renovations of the softball complex. That's what we need. We're outdated. And I think we have proven that. So, Terry, if you're listening to the podcast, and even if you're not, you better just subscribe. It's a cool place. We're invited to come on. One of the upper jobs you need to do, upgrade the softball facilities, and also give us a new scoreboard. Because, our scoreboard, it's not functioning correctly.
It does not show the score consistently.
Baseball would also like a new scoreboard.
We need to fix those scoreboards right away.
But back to the question that was posed about 10 minutes ago. No, I don't think it had a big deal with Lovelady not being there. Ted Tom really credited the first loss of the year to guys just being overexcited, and I think he kind of saw that with some silly errors and just being too amped and not focused. And and then part of it is just like, baseball is weird. And sometimes when you hit the ball, they hit it where they ain't. And FAU did a lot of that. And they made a lot of hard contact. It wasn't like soft stuff. But sometimes you just run into a bad weekend where a team just can't miss.
Nice pickup on the Wee Willie Keeler reference there, Murph. I appreciate that.
So what you're saying is we will welcome Siena back next year to being our series opener at the old like normal.
Or Monmouth. Let's not forget the Deer Hawks of Monmouth. All right. So that's the story with baseball. Friday, Saturday, Sunday at Ole Miss. That series, by the way, is going to be televised on SEC Network Plus. Which, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong. Can you get that on ESPN Plus?
Yes.
I'll defer to Murph on that.
Okay, Murph.
Check. Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so we'll have that at least as part of it. We'll be able to watch that, so that's good. Also, real quick, volleyball obviously had the weekend off after they swept Temple last weekend. They were supposed to play Miami Friday and Sunday, but that non-conference back-to-back got wiped. But Todd Dagenais did add Florida State to the schedule, so the Knights are making a bus trip up to Tallahassee to play the Seminoles on Friday at noon. UCF against Florida State. Of course, the last time these two met was in the first round of the NCAA tournament back in the fall of 2019, and UCF got the victory over Florida State for their first NCAA tournament win since 2003. So 16 years in between that, so now UCF gets a shot at an ACC opponent. Despite the fact that the back-to-back at Miami was going to be a home-and-home against Miami, got wiped off the schedule. And then after that, it's back to American Athletic Conference play with two matches coming up against ECU Friday and Saturday, March 5th and 6th. And those will be on ESPN Plus as well. All right. Eric Lopez, let's talk a little bit about soccer. Women's team is 2-0. They beat Cincinnati on Sunday. Dramatic moment for UCF. Ellie Moreno, 85th minute, got the game winner for UCF against the Bearcats to move UCF to 2-0 on the season. And we talked about how this schedule it's going to happen real quick. And just like that, UCF is 1/4 of the way through the season with 2 victories under their belt. 3-0 over Temple on Valentine's Day, 1-0 over Cincinnati. Next 2 are on the road, including Sunday at Tulsa at 12:30. But that was a big victory for UCF that they needed over Cincinnati, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of a weird game, defensive style, slow, and you didn't know it just
UCF
felt like
really outshot them too. I think they outshot them 7-1 in the first half.
Right, but it seemed like it was destined to be a draw, and then Moreno gets the goal where the goalkeeper can't handle the ball. So look, it's a good win. I think the big takeaway, and I know it's just 2 matches, defensively they're very sound. And remember, that was Tiff's concern with the back line being very young. But Delisle, obviously with 2 shutouts or clean sheets, as we like to call it in soccer.
Yep, no goals allowed first 2 games, not too bad.
That's right. Make sure you know your terminology, Murph, under soccer. It's not a shutout; it's a clean sheet. So that's a positive. That's a very big positive for them. It'll be interesting to see if they carry that over. I was very pleased defensively. Now offensively, finding ways to get some goals I think would be good. But yeah, 2-0. Look, man, you just need results. Put the result on the board. As you mentioned, this is a sprint. This is a truncated type of a season, so you can't fall. A 1 or 2 losses is magnified. So you take the wins where you could get them.
Yeah. Now, men's soccer on the other side, they lost to South Florida at home 2-1. They fell down 2-0, got one back late on an own goal, but couldn't complete the comeback. And so right now, men's soccer is sitting at 1-2 overall as they head out to Oklahoma to face Tulsa on Saturday at 8. They're off to. This is not the. We talked about baseball start. This is not the start that soccer was looking forward to. The men's soccer team, at least. So what do they have to do to get back on track, Eric?
They got some, we're not going to panic, but there's concern. And I think the South Florida match, again, they get off to a slow start, got outplayed the first 15, 20 minutes of the match, fall behind early. And, after that, they were fine. They had 20 shots. It was a high up-tempo game, as you would expect. The South Florida goalkeeper was kind of was tremendous for them. He was the star of the game. I think he made 12 saves, which is the most that any goalkeeper has had in the UCF softball complex. I mean, not softball. What stadium am I in? It's UCF soccer and track stadium history. He was fantastic. And yet, my concern, and I don't know if this gets fixed in the spring, and that is who is going to replace the Cal Jennings production. And I think what we're seeing is, in soccer, it's one thing, you got playmakers and all that, but putting the ball behind the net. And I think right now we don't know who that is. And I don't know if there is enough time in the spring to find that answer. We may not know the answer till the fall. It might be too big of an ask to find a replacement for the Cal Jennings productions and the appreciation. And it's not just affecting you how to put the ball in the net. It was the attention that Cal brought from the opponents, because the opponents would put 2-3 guys on them. So that would free up guys like Vivi and other guys to get their opportunities. Well, right now the defenses are playing them all straight up because they're like, we're not afraid of these guys. And I think UCF right now, it's just like the confidence, like who's the guy that could step up and make be that confidence builder to get the ball in the back of the net. I mean, they're getting opportunities. They're just not finishing plays. And that's the gift of Cal. Cal is one of the great finishers this program's ever produced. And it might be a lot to ask to replace him in a short spring season. And remember, they lose Louis Perez, who signs a pro deal last week. So it's tough. 2 losses at home after not losing a regular season home game since 2018. It's concerning because, remember, you still got a home-and-home with SMU. And the concerning thing is SMU put 7 goals on the same South Florida team.
Oof, yeah. Well, first order of business is at Tulsa, who UCF lost to in the opener 1-0 in a game that Scott Calabrese felt that UCF, it should have been winnable for UCF if they had started off properly. But they'll get another opportunity to play them, even though it's in Oklahoma. That's 8 o'clock on Saturday. So chance to get back to 500, even up yourself on the year with Tulsa, and then you get Memphis next Saturday at home. That's the next home game for UCF men's soccer, 6 o'clock on March the 6th. Quick updates on tennis. Men's tennis is 3-2. They knocked off North Florida in Jacksonville 7-0. They play Friday against FGCU at the USTA National Campus. Next 3 matches, in fact, are at home. Friday against Florida Gulf Coast, Sunday against Stetson, Tuesday against South Alabama, 1 p.m., noon, and 11 a.m. respectively at the USTA National Campus. And that group is starting to heat up real quick now.
There's 3 guarantees in tennis right now in the spring, in January, February. Novak Djokovic wins the Australian Open every time he's in the final. Naomi Osaka wins the women's final every time she's in the quarters or further. And Gabriel DeCamps and Trey Hildebrandt together beat ranked teams. That's what they do. They have beaten already 3 doubles teams this year. And DeCamps beat the number 4 ranked player in the world in college tennis from Texas A&M last week. Won the conference award for the week. He was more important. He was our honorable mention, which is a bigger prize than that on the Black and Gold Banneret. Would have won the night of the week if it wasn't for Aaliyah. But he is tremendous, Jeffrey. I think he has a chance to be the greatest men's tennis player in UCF tennis history.
Well, he's off to a great start when you keep doing that. I mean, he started knocking off guys who are in the top 5 nationally regularly. That's going to be that's definitely going to be the key for them. So on the other side, the women's tennis team, they are 6-2 right now. They beat. They're still. Their last match was against Miami, but that was on Saturday the 13th. That 4-0 sweep. So they've had a good break here before they play Thursday. Tomorrow, we're recording this on Wednesday night. They play Thursday at TCU. This is that lone road trip that they make. Where they head out to Texas. They're in Fort Worth for TCU, and then Texas Austin, who's number 2 in the country on Saturday. That's a huge match.
The defending national champions.
Yeah.
Defending national champions. Kind of disappointing this ain't on the Longhorn Network. We got to carry, probably the 100,000th time the Rose Bowl 2006 Vince Young, because nobody's seen that before. But that's going to be a huge test. We got to hear Matthew McConaughey
shade
say,
at the.
We got to throw Matthew McConaughey. All right.
Number 2, Texas, 1 p.m. On Saturday at the Texas Tennis Center in Austin.
Huge match.
Yeah.
We're going to learn a lot about the team. That could be. We're going to, you've asked about national title aspirations. We're going to learn about where they are stacked and where they rank up with Texas. That's going to be huge.
Yeah. Now that match is televised, by the way, online at the via the University of Texas at Texas Sports.
Are they sure they're not going to air, Vince Young classics?
No,
they always do?
This is not be on the Longhorn Network, Eric. This is going to be, and then the TCU match on Thursday at 1. That will also be streamed on PlaySite.com. So there are links up.
What's your favorite Matthew McConaughey movie, Murph?
Dallas Buyers Club, really good.
All right, there you go.
I mean,
I'm in on Dallas Buyers Club.
I mean, he was in Mud. It was really good there. He had some memorable scenes. Obviously, Dazed and Confused and Wolf of Wall Street. Never really liked his rom-com stuff. The Lincoln Lawyer was boring. What am I forgetting?
I thought he was underrated in Contact with Jodie Foster.
Ooh, I like
Jodie
Foster.
He was okay.
He was very young at that point. That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
You remember when he was on the sidelines for the UCF Marshall football game in 2006 because they were promoting We Are Marshall? Yeah.
Yep. And was our boy made the field goal at the end to totally spoil the party.
Yeah.
We could talk about
Torres, Michael Torres. Yeah.
Nothing right. He became a meme in True Detective. A really bad season for a show a lot of people liked. I didn't like that season at all.
I didn't think it was so bad. I mean, it wasn't spectacular, but it was. Yeah, it was.
People love that show.
Oh, and let's not forget U571.
Yeah.
Another good performance.
Murph, excited.
What? You don't like U571?
I know. Wow.
I have not seen it.
You haven't seen
Whoa!
Whoa. Wait a second. We've got some breaking news here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Jeff Sharon has seen a movie that Brian Murphy has not.
You have seen how many films in your life? 4? 5?
One of them is definitely U571, however.
Great. I congratulate you. Want a cookie?
Oh, God. He was in Angels in the Outfield, by the way?
Yeah, I saw that, but I forgot.
What was his role in Angels in the Outfield? Just some random player?
I don't remember that. I didn't see him in I didn't see him in The Gentleman, or all these other rom-coms that he did were not good.
We're trying to get Murph fired up for the Golden Globes, the 78th edition of the Golden Globes. I know. I mean, I know it's not the Oscars, Murph, but it's all we got right now, Murph.
No. We don't have it. We don't need it. Golden Globes are trash. They're always trash. Okay?
Come on, it's a fun night of television, isn't
Get
it?
the Hollywood foreign press out of here. Nobody wants to see that while you cram in movies that don't deserve to be awarded into categories no one asked for. Stop.
I love it. That's all I wanted. That's what I wanted from the show. I just wanted Murph to go off on the Golden Globes. I just wanted it. So, that was my goal, and I accomplished.
Matthew McConaughey played outfielder Ben Williams in Angels in the Outfield.
I forgot he was bad in Sahara, too. I saw that movie. That movie was not good.
It's all right.
I mean, really, his career's been great since, 2012, but there's a ton of misses before that.
Nobody remembers the misses.
But he was a different actor. He was a different actor before that. I mean, now he's legitimate. Now he's you put him in anything and he's usually solid. Before then, he was just he was a guy. He was a one-bit character.
Yeah.
Wow, this is great analysis.
Wow,
Mike.
this is the kind of analysis you don't get anywhere aside from the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to tell you. All right. Let's wrap this thing up here. Thanks again to Anthony Lenahan for joining us earlier, and thanks also to all the staff. You guys have been great. It's a busy time right now, but we've really tried to pull it together as best we can to get the most important news out to you. Thanks again to Jeremy for his hard work on the newsletter every day, and we're gonna keep on rolling through this. These nightcaps that we do, Eric, on Mondays, man, it's busy, it's wild.
With exclusive thoughts from Brian Murphy on baseball. Yes. I mean, where else are you going to get? We got to get you, Jeff, to kind of give your exclusive thoughts on volleyball in that nightcap. Maybe that's what, something.
I like that formula, and we're going to do that. We are definitely going to do that. I'm thinking I like where we're going with that.
Some people have suggested I should comment on the softball, so I'll do that for all you. I will do that.
And let's also not forget. Let's see. I wanted to pull this up here real quick. Hey, rowing makes their debut this coming week. They play. They have an event on Saturday.
Then an exhibition, right, against Tennessee.
Against Tennessee, that's right. They get started again.
The first. Wait a minute. Whoa.
We could have a six-peat this year.
Wait a minute,
rowing.
Tennessee UCF rowing. This is the first meeting
That's
since who left to Knoxville.
That's right. Okay.
Is this a home and home? Is this a home and home?
No, I don't think so.
Is this a lake and lake? Are they going to go on each other's lakes?
Was this like what Terry Mahajer meant this week about calling Danny for a home and home? I thought it was football, but hey, if it's rowing, I'll take it.
Okay. Gosh. All right. So we've got that. Thanks to important. Sorry, Barrett. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say thanks to Danny Medina, who's been following what Terry Mahajer said to Mike Bianchi earlier this week. You can follow that on Black and Gold Banneret as well. Go ahead, Murph. I'm sorry.
I totally forgot that I saw Amistad when I was 13, and I haven't seen it since. And Matthew McConaughey was I had a starring role in that. I totally forgot he was in that because I haven't seen it in more than 20 years.
When is the Oscars? Because I know that's your event. Is that we have to do a special Oscars?
What happens when I try to end the show?
Couple months. I believe it's April 26th.
Wow. Is there any UCF conflicts there? I know you've looked that up. There's no UCF conflicts.
When's the NFL draft? The NFL draft ends that day, I think, right?
Oh, no.
I mean, no. If there is a conflict, I mean, we're just going to have to deal with it.
No, the draft ends May 1st. You're out. You're good. You're good. May 1st.
April 25th is your Oscars night.
Okay. And the draft is April 29th through May the 1st. That's right.
So people got plenty of time to go out and try to find Minari and Nomadland and The Father. A lot of good films, Jeff. You should go see some films.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to find those somehow. When do they come out on Netflix? You laugh. I'm not joking.
I know you're not. It's sad.
UCF baseball coincidentally has is playing ECU in Greenville on Oscars Day.
So you're telling me that the weekend of the Oscars is also the weekend of UCF's most important conference series?
Yes, it is. In Greenville.
Well, I'll tell you what, baseball is going to be mighty disappointed.
God. Don't let Lovelady know whatever you do. So what's softball doing that weekend, by the way? April 25th. Oh, they're at
Murph's plans either way. I know that.
Yeah. Well, guess what, Eric Lopez? They're at Memphis.
Hey, Murph, we could do it. Night shift, special edition, the Oscars, huh?
I mean, what time? It depends, because I may or may not be of function at a certain hour on Sunday.
Oh, I know for sure you're not going to, which is why
Big night.
Maybe we'll talk about it the day after.
Are you going to write about that UCF movie we've been talking for like a year? Or...
Oh, boy,
we need a movie related listicle here, Murphy. It's something like if UCF Hollywood doppelgangers, like something like that. Come on.
UCF, yeah. Oh,
God, I mean, George Clooney is Greg Lovelady.
All right, we got time. We got time for this. We got time to figure.
We'll have to spend some time fleshing this out. You know what? Here's what you do. Okay, UCF film celebrity doppelganger. Send them to us on Twitter. UCF_Banneret.
There you go.
Okay. We've been asking for this for a while. We want to hear from you.
And Murph will put it on to a big article production.
Yeah, we'll put it together.
If you threw some sideburns on McConaughey,
wow, it's full circle. I love it. That's good.
Yeah, I know, right? You could pass for a Lovelady, right?
Yeah. They've got the hair pulled off, I think. Yeah.
Folks, this is called live This is like a live meeting right here. We just got up with content idea. This is
how we come up with content.
I'm sure the listeners just want this to end. This has been the most fun I've had in this podcast yet.
God, wait till Oscar night. All right, let's get out of here. For Eric and Brian, I'm Jeff. Make sure you follow us at UCF_Banneret, Facebook.com/Black and Gold Banneret, and of course, blackandgoldbanneret.com. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast if you don't already on whatever device you may have, Android or Apple. If you already subscribe to this podcast, leave a comment and a rating, and please tell a friend so that we get a larger UCF audience of people who love UCF sports as much as we do. So for Eric Lopez, Brian Murphy, and all of us here at Black Gold Banneret, I'm Jeff Sharon saying thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week.